Hello sewers and welcome. I'm Debbie from Sew Simple Bags, and today I'm going to share with you one of the most exciting days a sewer can get. This is the arrival of my new sewing machine. I've ordered this one from Amazon. This is the Brother CS6000i, and I picked this one because Amazon recommended it to me as one of their best sellers. When I took a look, it's kind of a mid-range machine. You know, it's nothing super fancy, but it's a little bit up from some of the basics beginner sewing machines that you see. It comes with a lot of great accessories, which we're going to have a look at, and it's got thousands of really great reviews. So I felt very confident in ordering this one, and I thought you would like to share in my excitement, and we can open it together. So without further ado, got my sharp tools. I'm going to cut open the top with a knife and let's see what's inside. I'm expecting that there'll be another box inside, but we might just open straight to the machine. Oh no other box, just go straight to the machine with this one. So I can see I've got some accessories on the top, so let's get those out first of all. I have got my power lead, and my foot pedal, and then there's a little bag of accessories and feet and tools, which I'll set to one side and we'll look at those later. And here inside, it's all packed well in polystyrene. Now this, the packing on this was really important because I live in the Cayman Islands and I ordered this from Amazon US. It's actually taken almost 3 months to get to me, so I have to be quite patient when I order anything. It goes to a shipping company in Miami. They put it on a cargo ship in one of these big container ships. It turns up here, has to go through the processing and customs at the port. So it's really important to me that things are well packaged so that they don't get damaged through that 3 month shipping process. So let's get some of this polystyrene off and take a look. I've got an interesting box here. We'll set this to one side. It's got something in there. Instruction manuals, very important. I will read those with a cup of coffee later. Now, let's see if I can lift the machine out. Oh, let's get the plastic bag off. Here it comes with a hard cover, so that's really great for storage. And it has a polystyrene liner in the top as well. So I'm going to set that to one side. And I should be able to grab the machine out by the handle. Let's have a go. More polystyrene. And that's it, that's everything in the box. Ooh, fantastic, I'm very excited. So, here's my new machine. I'm going to start to unwrap it now and we'll take a look in closer detail. Okay, this all looks great, so let me drag my chair across. We'll get a little bit closer in and look at the machine in more detail now. There's just a couple of pieces of cardboard just here, just secured in front of the needle to protect it during shipping. You can take that off, and now I think everything is good. Let's have a look at the accessories. Here's our presser foot. No. Here's our foot pedal for the machine. Comes with a nice long cord. Let's have a look, like this. So if you like to sew standing up, like I do sometimes, then it's good. You can put your machine on a high table and there's still plenty of cord for you to have your your foot down on the floor, and that goes, let's see, on the back. Is it here? See, I should have read the manual. So what's going to be my first tip? Read the manual so you don't look like a fool. Here. There we go. Okay. Foot pedal in there. Then we also have quite a long power cord. Probably 8 feet or more. So that gives you plenty of room if your power cord is a little way away. Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, it's got to be 8 feet or so. Of course, I'm a sewer. I've probably got a tape measure if I looked somewhere, wouldn't I? But this is close enough. So there's our power cord. So now I think if I bring the camera round, I'm going to show you the front of the machine, and we'll start to get things set up and see what all of the dials and the buttons do. So I do think there's a little icon on the top just here. I think that there must be some extra tools. So let's slide this off. Yes, indeed. We have some little extra tools just here. Again, we'll have a look at those in a minute. There's lots of sewing feet and needles and all sorts of things in there. So of course it's what's known as a free arm machine, because you have this area here. You can take off this front part, and then if you are sewing sleeves or something with a small circumference, you have this free area here where you can rotate it around, which is different to an industrial machine, for example. Slide that on. Now, I think I'll bring over this large cardboard box because I know what's inside. This should be our table. And this was another reason why I chose this machine, because it has a very large working table. Let's get this out of the bag. Pop that up the way. There we go. So we just pop up the feet here on the back, and they've got little adjustable rubber feet which you can turn on here. So we'll pop those up, and then this just slips on here. Do I need to take that one off? Yes. There we go. So if you want to work with just a small area, you can leave this part. You leave this part on, and you have this area here to work with. If you want the larger table, take that one off, and then this one slides in. And then we have a much larger work area. And this is one of the reasons I definitely bought this machine, because I love the really big working space on it. And of course, handy, it has across the front here measurements in inches and centimetres. Now, if you don't want to go through the whole instruction manual to start with, there are a couple of helpful sheets. There's this one, your quick start guide, and this one shows you how to put the thread on the machine, how to thread a bobbin, how to turn the machine on, how to sew, obviously, how to install your bobbin, and then over on the reverse, how to thread your needle, how to thread the machine, and how to start sewing. So you can get going straight away just with these easy start guides if you don't want to go with the full manual, just because you're kind of excited. I can understand that. And also we have this little section here which shows us about all of the tools and accessories. So it's probably a good time now if I get those out of the bag, and we'll have a look and see what the machine comes with. So we have our two bags, the plastic one and the one that was inside the machine, this one. So let's go with this one first. And we have, let's see if I can make it, there we go, the free motion quilting foot. This is the little screwdriver that you use to change your needle, like this one, or if you need to take off the foot plate just here. This plate here has a couple of screws, and you can use this little screwdriver here, like this, just to undo the screws here for cleaning your machine later on, and also for changing the needle. This is the extra spool pin. So if you need to work with 2 spools of thread, maybe you're working with a twin needle, then you have an extra spool pin which goes up on the top of the machine. This clips in just here. So you have a spool pin at the back, just here, and then a spare one, another one at the front if you want to work with 2. You have a little cleaning brush, a little seam ripper, and a quilting guide. This one works with the walking foot, and here's our walking foot. A walking foot is great for quilting, but it's also good for bag making, where you're going to work with a lot of layers, also called an even feed foot. This foot has built-in feed dogs, so you can see it has little, let's see if you can see, it has little built-in feed dogs in the foot here. So the feed dogs work on the top of the fabric as well as the bottom, and so when you're working with layers or when you're quilting, then this one is a really essential one to have. And the quilt guide pushes in the back, so that if you are quilting and want to keep even layers, want to keep even rows, then you run this part of the foot along the part you've already sewn, and then you sew something even to the line you already have. So that's all the bits and pieces that was in the plastic bag. Let's get this little toolbox here open. So this is our buttonhole foot. We also have some needles. It has regular universal needles. It comes with a twin needle, and it also comes with, this one is a stretch needle, a jersey needle. We have a little punch tool, in case you need that for any reason. We have 3 bobbins, and then a selection of feet. So this would be our regular foot that we would sew with. Allows you to sew a straight stitch, a zigzag stitch, and all of these decorative stitches on here. This is normally sewn with this kind of foot. Then we have a zipper foot. This one is for sewing on buttons. This one is one of my favourite sewing feet. This is an overcasting foot, and in an upcoming video I'll show you how to use the overcasting foot and why it's so darned awesome. And then this one they call the blind stitch foot, and if you look, it has a little fin, a little blade on the bottom, so if you want to stitch in the ditch, then you can run this along the ditch, and it's helpful for sewing binding, for example. So that's the blind stitch foot. And then of course we have the regular foot that comes already on the sewing machine in place. So pretty much, if you look at all of these bits and pieces, this sewing machine has all the feet and all of the accessories that you need to get started. And that's another reason why I chose this machine, because it really does come with everything. You really don't need to buy a lot of extra accessories in order to sew some of the speciality stitches. So let me pack these up and we'll have a look at some of the functions of the machine itself. So at this point, I'm going to encourage you to read your operating manual. I know it's not the most exciting thing when you have a new sewing machine, because you really want to get sewing straight away, and by all means go ahead and do that. But this manual actually has a lot of really useful information that's going to tell you how to look after your machine and basically how to use it to get the best out of it. Because sometimes, especially with a computerized machine, and this is what you call a computerized machine because it has a little dial, it has a little screen up here with buttons that you can can press to change the settings, as opposed to a manual machine which would probably have a dial that you turn to change your settings. So on a computerized machine, sometimes it can have a lot of hidden functions you don't know about, so do check out your manual. The Brother ones are especially good. They've got loads of pictures and it tells you all about how to do everything. But start with the quick start guide if you really want to get sewing straight away. So some of the features on this machine. First, this slider just here, it has 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows, and this is your speed selector. It's a little bit like having a limiter on a car. If you're a beginner, you probably want to set it to slow speed so the machine doesn't kind of gather too much speed and get out of control for you. As you become more experienced, by all means whack it up to top speed, and then when you put your foot on the foot pedal, then it will go as fast as you want it to go. But using the lower settings, the 1 and 2, will actually limit the speed of the machine and make it go a little slower. Now this machine has a selection tool where you can select your needle position, whether you want the needle up or down when you finish sewing. I always like to set mine with needle down, but this one here, basically you press once and it will put the needle up. You press again and it puts the needle down. So when I finish sewing and it sews in the needle down position, I then just press this once, the needle comes up and I can take my work out. This one here is the reverse stitch. So say you want to, you're starting your line of sewing, you sew forward a little bit, you press here to reverse for a few stitches and lock your stitches in place, let go and then stitch forward again. This one also has a button to stop and start stitching. So if for some reason you went on holiday and you forgot to take your foot pedal with you, all would not be lost because you can still use this switch here to start and to stop sewing. Also, maybe you break your ankle and you can't work your foot pedal, then again you can still use your machine with the start and stop stitching button just here. Down in this area of the machine, we have the automatic needle threading tool, and I'll show you that in a bit more detail in a separate video, because otherwise this one will get far too long. But this is a godsend if you're over 40 and you need glasses, then this one is going to thread the needle for you automatically. I'll show you that in a future video. And up at the top here, next to the LED screen or LCD screen, whichever it is, it has little buttons here, which you can plus and minus, and these are going to change your stitch width and length, and also your stitch selection. So I think it's probably about time we turn the machine on and had a look at some of those. So I've got the machine turned on, and let's have a look at some of the functions just here. This is our LCD screen. The first two numbers here are our stitch selection. So we have stitches from 0 to 59, and we can select them by moving the numbers here up and down. And as we change the number, did you notice here that the letter changed under the foot? That was a J, this one is an A. The feet that I showed you earlier, they all have a little letter printed on them. And as you select all of the different stitches here, it recommends here the best stitch to use, the best foot to use with that stitch. So that is extremely handy. And then go through, here we go. And then let's pick, for example, number 4. Let's go with a zigzag stitch. So the default for a zigzag stitch is a stitch length of 1.4 and a stitch width of 3.5, and it recommends foot J, which is the one we have on here. I think the standard foot just there. So we can see stitch number 4 here is our zigzag stitch, but we can easily change these. If we want the stitch to be longer or wider, we just press the plus and our stitch length increases accordingly. Let's take it to the max. Stitch length of 4 is a max, and if we take up the stitch width, it goes all the way up to a 7. And again, this is another reason why I chose this sewing machine, because I know it has a wider stitch. It goes up to 7 compared to most which have a stitch width of 5. And as we move the stitch, I don't know if you can hear, but there's a just slight nudge to the needle position just here. The needle position changes according to the stitch width. The stitch width and length also applies to the decorative stitches that we have here. So you can, for example, if you wanted number 24, you can make it small by setting a small stitch width and length, or you can make it larger by setting the settings for stitch width and length larger. Easy as that. Stitches number 29 through to 35 are your buttonhole ones. So let's pick, for example, number 30. That looks like a standard buttonhole. And it tells us to use feet A for that one. Most of the stitches that you're going to use will be these ones on the top line, and particularly probably numbers 1 through to 7 or 8 will be the ones you use most often. Numbers 0 and 1, these are just your straight stitches, and you can have your needle in various positions with this machine. If I set my stitch to 0, my needle position is over on the left, and my needle moves to the left hand side of the foot. If I set my stitch to number 1, then it moves to the center, but I can also slightly move this needle position left and right with my buttons if I want it slightly one way or the other. Actually, I need to make a correction there. It's when I set the stitch to 0, 0 that I can then move the needle any position. So I can move the needle 1 dash over, like 0.5 millimeter at a time, until I set the sewing position. For example, if I wanted my sewing needle all the way over to the right hand side of my foot, I set my width to 7, and it's still going to sew a straight stitch, but it's going to sew it on the right hand side of the presser foot rather than on the left. If I set back to 0, 0 and just sent it back here, then it will stitch on the left. Or if I set stitch number 0, 1, then it stitches with a center needle position. We also have some really good stitches for using with stretch fabric. You've got stitch number 3, your lightning stitch. Stitch number 4, of course, always good with working with stretch fabrics, just a regular zigzag stitch. And we have number 5, which is the triple zigzag. So each zigzag is made up of 3 stitches. And then stitch number 2 is your triple stretch stitch. We also have a top loading bobbin in this machine. If you pop this over to one side, up comes the little plate, and there's another bobbin inside there too. So now I think I've pretty much shown you all of the basic features of this machine and explained why I chose it. Now it's time for me to thread it up and start sewing, and I'm very excited to do so. So thank you very much for having a look as I unbox my machine and shows you a few of the basic features of it. If you've got any questions or want to know any more about what is covered by this machine, then hop on over to YouTube and leave a comment or a question underneath the video, and I will do my best to answer you. While you're there, remember to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Thanks very much, and see you at Sew Simple Bags again very soon.